Okay, let's go to the phones at 617-830-4750, starting today with our caller from the 615 area code. Who's calling today from 615?
Hi, David. This is Jack, and I know this is a Nashville area code, but I'm currently on vacation in Connecticut visiting family.
Oh, all right. Well, I hope
But
Connecticut's treating you well.
yeah, thank you for taking my call. So I had a couple questions. I'll make them as brief as I can. So you talked a lot about the $15 minimum wage, and that is one of, I think, the top priorities that I think the next president, should a Democrat get elected, enact in Congress and in the Oval Office. So, but I see a lot of conflicting studies, like studies that say, oh, it's good for the worker, does not reduce hours, does not significantly, significantly reduce employment. But then I see a lot of studies saying the exact opposite. But the one thing I observe about those studies that say it's bad for the worker, bad for entry-level workers, is that they are funded by the restaurant industry. But if you point that out to them, the rebuttal is, oh, but your studies are funded by labor unions.
Sure.
So how do you determine whether a study is actually unbiased and factual and there's not a conflict of interest skewing
There
the
almost
result?
always will be some potential conflict or bias in almost any study. The question is to figure out, is there a particular way in which it is influencing the results? And with something like the minimum wage, you can basically get whatever results you want. My view tends to be in looking at what I would consider to be the most sort of disconnected from biased funding academic type studies. What I am seeing is that there is an effect on hours and employment to a higher minimum wage, depending on how much the minimum wage is increasing beyond its status quo. So in a state with a lower cost of living and a lower minimum wage, like Arkansas, going from, $8 to $15 is going to have a much bigger impact than it is in a state where the minimum wage is already, for example, $11, and 15 arguably may not even be a living wage still. So that's the issue, that it's a very regionalized effect that you need to be looking much more specifically. And just because there is some negative impact to a policy, that doesn't mean it's a policy we shouldn't do. Think about how many policies we enact all the time that have some costs, but we determine the benefits outweigh the costs, if that makes sense, Jack.
That makes absolute sense. And that was what I was reading on the Economic Policy Institute, where they were saying that there might be very, very small costs to it, but the benefits far outweigh it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the reason I was asking that is because I saw this very interesting old segment that Kyle Kalinske did back in 2013. I came across it recently, where Chris Hayes was talking about how there was this group called the Employment Policies Institute that sounded, academic and serious, but really they were just a PR firm for the restaurant lobbying industry. And he brought on this guy. Have you heard of this guy named Michael Saltzman?
No.
Yeah, he writes a lot of op-eds saying, oh, the minimum wage is terrible, and all the things you hear. It will kill jobs. Well, that's the main point he makes. But Chris Hayes is like, the studies you're citing are bought and paid for by the restaurant lobbying industry. Yeah. And Kyle said in his segment, like, well, that's what they do. They pay for fake studies to get the results that they want. And then they have a fake intellectual leg to stand on, so that they say, well, we would love to raise the minimum wage and cut our profits, but we have this study that says it's a bad idea. So sorry.
Yes, they do.
So,
they
okay, I'm
indeed
going to
do
move
that.
on.
All right, Jack, thank you so much. Appreciate the call. I've got a bunch of people waiting, but I do hope to hear from you again.